Hello there, and as we reach nearly the middle of this long and dark and very busy half term, to start quite a negative tone there, I thought it'd be useful just to stop and think about what's happening right here, right now, and also to do a little bit of horizon scanning to see what challenges are coming or are currently here, and what's next there. So to start right off, there, I'm going to return to a theme from the last briefing, and that's the supporting our disadvantaged students, or supporting those students who are supported by the pupil premium. Vital we continue to keep these students front and centre, and vital we continue to ask ourselves as leaders these really important questions. Are we being relentless in trying to get these students into school and into lesson every single week, every single day, every single lesson? Are we trying different behavioural support strategies so that they are in lessons more often and learning more often? Are we forensically looking for barriers to learning and trying to remove them? Are we, as either classroom teachers, subject leaders, senior leaders, are we going back to our pupil premium strategies, our toolkit, and thinking carefully, what else can I do to help this student attend and to help this student learn? That needs to be the mindset. What else can we do? Are we providing them, for example, with the highest quality of teaching and learning? And this brings us to the next section, and a developing blueprint, as we're starting to call them, the Sir John Brunner Foundation Blueprint on Teaching and Learning, which is a work in progress, but it's coming together. And it's all about high quality teaching and learning that we know is good for all students. We know it's good for pupil premium students, for SEND students, or both or none. We know it's good for our lower, middle and higher attaining students, prior attaining students. So this blueprint, it contains those four things: that lean, experts, thinking and sequencing. So lean is all about amplifying the signal. What am I trying to get them to learn? Being very clear with that. And what is the best way to teach it? Being very clear with the answer to that question. When looking at resources, presentations, board work, student work, whatever it is, it should be strikingly obvious what the key message the teacher is trying to deliver, what's the key learning that they're trying to get across. It should be flashing, technicolor, should be neon lights lit up there. It should be so obvious what we're trying to teach them there. That is all about amplifying the signal. And it's important that we remember that our experts are our teachers, and the teacher is the expert in charge of the learning, teaching to the top, delivering clear, concise and challenging material during the I do phase, maintaining control and direction during the we do phase, and monitoring, circulating, scaffolding, supporting at the you do phase, so that all students can achieve. And we need our students to be thinking, we need them to be thinking and working hard, and they can only do that in uninterrupted, undisrupted lessons. That's our job as senior leaders, to make sure that their lessons are uninterrupted. So that at every phase, the I do, we do, you do, there is that challenging, and we are challenging our students and forcing and making them to think and to make links. And then at the sequencing stage, whether that's sequencing the whole curriculum, half terms curriculum, or sequencing an individual lesson, we need to return to that question. What am I trying to get them to learn? What is the best way of doing that? What's the shortest, most efficient route to do this? How am I going to explain this concept? How am I going to check for understanding? How am I going to drill this concept? And when am I going to revisit it? When am I going to revise it? When am I going to go back to that learning in the short term, the medium term, or the long term, so that that learning sticks? And as part of this, it's also about focusing on those students trying to get those real top grades, and focusing on perhaps those students that are at grade 5 and stuck in a grade 5, but we can get them to a grade 6, a 7 or even an 8. And those students stuck in a grade C at A level, getting them to a B or even an A. Stuck in a grade 7, getting them to an 8 or a 9. Stuck in a B, getting them to an A or A star. Now we know that there's no one magic bullet. It's lots of little things, an umbrella of activities, an umbrella of things to try. And Andrew Bowden will explain much more about that, the Deputy Principal at Sir John Dean's, at our 7-Up conference on January the 11th, which will be held at County High School Lethwich, and that's for senior leaders, subject leaders and their seconds, at the school and some from the college to come together and think carefully about how do we make those students who are capable of getting those top grades, how do we make sure that they do achieve those in May when they start their exams. 3 examples of things that we will explore is backwards planning, and that's not really starting with the spec, but starting with the exam. Curveball questions, so thinking hard as subject leaders in our teams about how could the examiner ask this question that could trip our students up, and how can we prepare them for them. So writing some curveball questions and practicing them with students. And then that positive mindset with students. So things like, that's good work, yeah, well done, but you can do better, especially if you do X, Y, and Z next time. So, summary of that mindset is all about maximising every day, every lesson, every minute, every second, to give every year 11 and 13 student the best opportunity to excel in their exams in the summer. Okay then, just over to the horizon scanning. I thought it's worth just looking at some of the things in the Ofsted annual report that was out yesterday. And in particular, you might have seen it in the news about the social contract, which we have spoken about before. It's described in the report as follows. It says the social contract that has long bound parents and schools together has been damaged. This unwritten agreement sees parents get their children to school every day and respect the school's policies and approach. In return, schools give children a good education and help prepare them for the next steps in life. It took years to build and consolidate from when schooling first became compulsory. Unfortunately, there is ample evidence that this contract has been fractured, both in absenteeism and in behaviour. Restoring this contract is vital to sustaining post-pandemic progress, but is likely to take years to rebuild. And that's certainly something that we've recognised nationally and in our schools as well. In terms of behaviour nationally, there's also been some DfE figures released or stats released this week that suggests that in the autumn term of 22-23, when the data was last available, 2.9 per 100,000 pupils. The suspension rate was 2.9 per 10,000 pupils, and that's up 2.17 before the pandemic. Basically, suspensions are up on pre-pandemic levels, and the main reason behind that tends to be persistent disruptive behaviour, which we've seen as well. So we see this, we can predict it. We know which students are likely to get suspended, and we know the reasons why. So if we can predict it, can we stop it happening? How can we stop it happening? Something to think about. And attendance as well. That's all written down today, that you can predict your Progress 8 attendance, your Progress 8 score from your attendance. So really, it's really important to get those students in. We know this, really important to get those students in as much as possible to give them the best chance of success. So we need to rebuild that social contract. We need to think about how we communicate with our parents with kindness and understanding. But we need to set those expectations and boundaries. And we need to make sure that students understand them and parents understand them. And we need to make sure that when they don't meet our expectations or go past our boundaries, that there are consequences, and that we persistently and consistently apply those consequences and begin to rebuild and go again. And we need to rebuild and re-establish that unwritten social contract. Lots to do there. The annual report also looks at recruitment and retention. And talks about a reliance on short-term or supply staff, which again is something that we've seen. And we know that for teachers to be able to teach their students, they need positive, respectful relationships with each other, with the teachers and with the students. And that these relationships are very difficult to build in the short term. So these colleagues doing the short-term supply find that very difficult. So we need to find a way of supporting them. And we need to find a way of making sure we are recruiting the brightest and best and keeping them in our foundation and in our schools. There's also been lots in the news over the last few weeks about potential changes to Ofsted, so it's certainly worth keeping a watching brief. Things like self-assessment, annual safeguarding audits and scorecards. Like anything, the devil will be in the detail, and we need to see what comes out from this. So we'll keep a watching brief on that. But like always, we will continue to do what is right for our students. So in summary there, keep those pupil premium students front and centre. keep that focus on high quality teaching and learning for all students, and we'll have a particular focus on those 7-up students in January. In terms of that horizon scanning, lots of challenges over the horizon and actually right here, right now as well, and some potential changes. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you all soon.